Hi everyone, my name is Kavya and today I'll be going through some key concepts of object-oriented programming. So if you didn't know, we have 4 pillars of object-oriented programming, starting with encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. We will now have a deeper look at each of the principles and try to understand what they are all about. First, we will have a look at encapsulation. Encapsulation keeps related data and methods together securely. What does this mean is that encapsulation allows an object to hide its internal details, including its data. Therefore, encapsulation helps to control access to class members via access modifiers. We have different types of access modifiers ranging from public, private, to protected. And what is the use of each access modifier? So for a public method, the member is accessible from anywhere, whereas for a private method, the member is only accessible within its own class. Therefore, if we are doing inheritance or polymorphism, we would use protected methods in which the member is accessible within its own class in addition to subclasses. Alright, now let's have a look at the second concept, which is inheritance. Inheritance allows a child class to inherit from a parent class. So here the child class or the derived class is doing the inheriting, and for that to happen, for us to be able to reuse attributes or methods of the base class, the method must be declared as virtual or abstract in the superclass to be overridden in the subclass. If a method is not declared as virtual, it cannot be overridden. So here we can see that inheritance helps to create a more organized and efficient code structure by promoting code reuse. And later on, we will have a look at abstract classes. We'll have a deeper look at that. So overall, we can see that to be able to perform inheritance, we need different kind of methods. Now, let's have a look at our third key concept, that is polymorphism. Polymorphism allows objects of different classes to be treated as objects of a common superclass. And just so you know, poly means many forms. And we have 2 different types of polymorphism, that is static polymorphism and dynamic polymorphism. So static polymorphism is achieved through method overloading. What is method overloading? It means that we have 2 methods of the same name. Let's say we have a method called display. So we would have 2 methods with the same name but with different parameters. So let's say, for example, the first method would take an integer value, whereas the other method would take a string. So method overloading is just 2 methods of the same name but with different implementations and different parameters. And also the method to call is determined at compile time based on the type of argument passed. Now let's have a look at dynamic polymorphism. Dynamic polymorphism in C# is achieved through method overriding. What is a method overriding? So different from method overloading, method overriding can only be achieved through inheritance. So we would have two methods, but the two methods would have the same name, the same parameters, but they would just have different implementation. And as we talked about it earlier, the method in the parent class would need to be either a virtual method or an override method to be able to be overridden or further overridden for dynamic polymorphism to happen. And now we're at the fourth pillar of object-oriented programming, which is abstraction. So what is abstraction? Abstraction is a process of hiding the implementation details and showing only the functionality to the user. It lets us focus on what the object does instead of how it does it. So abstraction again makes use of inheritance, and it can be achieved through abstract classes and interfaces. So an abstract class is a class that does not have any implementation in it. So the method would be empty. There won't be any implementation. It would not say what is the method doing, and that would be in the parent class. And when we get to the child class, then we will give the implementation and say what does the class do. So the abstract class is always used as a base class. And now let's just talk about the state design pattern. It's not one of the main pillars of object-oriented programming, but it's an important concept that we can learn about to plan different projects of different sizes. So the state design pattern is just a behavioral design pattern that allows an object to change states. And this design pattern uses different principles and is useful in different ways. So what is the single responsibility principle? It means that each state class handles its own logic, which makes the code more maintainable and easier to understand. So basically, a simple example that we have done as part of the object-oriented programming class was for a simple reaction timer, where our program had different states and was behaving in a different way for each of the state, which leads us to the open or closed principle. So this allows us to introduce new states without changing the existing state classes or the context. So overall, state design pattern simplifies our code by eliminating switch cases, and it can handle different states. And like any design pattern, the state design pattern is a tool to solve specific problems. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And alright, so that was it, explaining some concepts of object-oriented programming. I hope you liked it and that you have a better understanding of what the different concepts are. Thank you.